Okay, anyway, so tonight, y'all listen. We are going to do not lie number 2, it's lie number 3. All right? Now, you notice the notes are thicker. I got a lot to get through, but I don't even have notes in front of me. I just have the slides. So I think it's going to go by pretty quick. So here's lie number 3. It's this: attraction and lust are the same thing. Make sure y'all put y'all's phones away, please. Attraction and lust are the same thing. I kind of briefly mentioned this last week. I think a lot of people get confused and think that they're the same. Okay? So I want to kind of give you guys different things that I've heard people kind of say. When I ask people to define what lust is, here are like 3 different things that I've kind of heard as rough definitions. Here's kind of the first one. They think it's to be attracted to someone, right? If you're attracted to someone of the opposite sex, that's some kind of lust, right? That there's that sexual attraction to the opposite sex. That's lust. All right? I'll give y'all a chance to write that down. All right?
Thank you.
And you say you have the camera recording, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Does everybody have that to be attracted to someone?
You didn't send the film from last week.
Huh?
You didn't upload the film from last week.
The film? It is uploaded. I just didn't post it on Instagram yet. I need to do that. Here's the second thing I've kind of heard is to think someone is hot, right? If somebody asks you, hey, do you think they're hot? And you're like, if you answer like, yeah, or you say that person's hot, well, that's lust. You're saying they're hot. That's inappropriate or that's sexual, right? That's kind of a second idea that I've heard.
Just say that they think they're good looking.
Yeah.
Because it sounds weird when you say hot.
Yeah. No, nobody. I'm not saying anybody use whatever words you want. What do they say then?
They say like
Fine.
I say handsome.
They're fine.
They're so fine.
I say whatever word I want to describe my wife. All right?
I still say hot.
Okay, but fill in whatever word you want to put in. It doesn't really matter. You get the idea.
Have you ever called Trina? I just
Yes,
that.
I have.
When?
I've called her a lot of things, some of which I'm not repeating in here. Just kidding. All right, hey, we're moving on. Hey, it's part of the message. You'll understand it as we go along. Okay, so here's the third one. It's checking someone out. I've heard this before, where somebody's like, well, lust is like when you check someone out, and if you just check, that's lust, right? That's when you're lusting after somebody. And so maybe these are kind of rough ideas that if I was to have asked you before, maybe so you might agree that you think this is kind of what lust is. But I'm going to tell you that all 3 of these things are not the actual definition of lust. This is not necessarily what lust is. But I want to kind of give you guys clarification on that, because if you do not have lust defined for you in a way where you actually know what it is, it's going to lead you to have confusion. And especially if, as Christians, we know that lust is sinful, we want to be able to fight lust. But if you don't know what lust is, how are you going to know what to fight? Right? If you're thinking lust is this, when it's not, then that means you're fighting the wrong thing. Right? So you're kind of fighting a pointless battle over here, where you need to get your focus on where lust actually is. Hold on a second. And so here's the problem that I think people have. It's right here. This is that little graphic. If you can't read this, I'm going to read it for you. Imagine this is a cycle starting in step 1 in the corner. This is like an average dude going about his day. I think an average Christian dude, this is how he thinks of this is what he thinks lust is. So the first thing he says, right, if he's trying to fight against lust, he'll say, God, help me not to lust today, right? That should be every person's prayer. Help me not to lust. But then he sees an attractive woman. She's doing the little, all right? And he thinks to himself, she looks good head to toe. But then, oh no, step number 3, he's like, oh no, now I'm lusting. It's happened. It's just at a moment's notice. Now I'm all of a sudden, it's happened to me. There's that shame. And what did we say in the first? Shame leads to what? Blame. So now he's upset at God. God, why did you make me this way? Why did you make women so attractive to me that I just can't help it? I just can't. So then, number 5, he thinks to himself, well, you know what? I can't win. I'm only human anyway, and may give in to a moment of temptation to look at pornography or something else. So then, by the end of this, feels sorry, feels regret, shame, all that from lusting, and now it's, God, I'm sorry. Repeat that cycle over and over and over and over again. And this is how most Christians deal with the subject of lust. And I think it's because,
So
go ahead.
like taking someone out in general is lust?
No. We're going to get into it. I'm saying this is not simply seeing an attractive person. I'm going to make the case is not lust. That's separate. But a lot of people, if you think that being attracted is lust, you're going to get stuck into this cycle. Y'all see what I'm saying? Okay. So, here's the result. If you're a Christian and you believe this lie, if you believe that attraction and lust are the same thing, here's going to be your mentality. You're going to believe that enjoying the sight of the human body, aka attraction, that's perverse. That's wrong. That's sinful. But having a lustful response is natural. Remember last week's lie? That lust is the natural response? That's not true, right? That is a response that we have as a result of sin. So if you believe all of the lies up to this point, here's your mentality. Being attracted to somebody, right? Enjoying how somebody else looks, that's somehow perverted. But then you also tell yourselves that having a lustful response, that's somehow natural and you can't break free from it. This is a mentality that is the byproduct of all the other lies that we've talked about up to this point. Okay, does everybody have those little blanks filled in? Okay. So now, here's the truth. And the truth part, we got a whole lot to cover. So that's why the lie, I think, is pretty simple. So here's the truth. Maybe you've already filled in the blank because you already could guess. Attraction and lust are separate things. Attraction and lust are separate things. They are not the same. All right, I'll give y'all a chance to fill that in. And Braden and Jay, don't worry. This is going to be uploaded so you can watch the beginning. Well, we just started like 5 minutes ago, so y'all hardly missed anything. The lie was really easy. All right. Does everybody have that? Attraction and lust are separate things. Okay. So now I want to give you guys the definitions of attraction and then lust. And I want you to see just how different these things are. Okay? So here's the definition of attraction. I'm pretty sure it's a noun. One of y'all can check me on that later. It means interest or liking for someone or something. Interest or liking for someone or something. I did look it up. So here's the thing. When you look up a definition of any word, there's going to be a lot of different definitions because there's a lot of different dictionaries. But I give a definition that is more in tune with how the Bible would describe it rather than just simply what is the first result on Google. So I give you guys definitions that fit with the biblical idea. So attraction, and I'm going to give you guys 2 examples of attraction in the Bible so that I feel like it'll help you kind of grasp what exactly we're talking about. So the first example is enjoying like a painting or enjoying a landscape or enjoying God's creation. But this one just says enjoying a painting. So you can write that one down. And I actually have a verse that I think kind of goes with this idea of having attraction or liking of God's creation. So it's going to be Psalm 104, verses 24 and 25. All right? So you can fill in those blanks. Should be pretty straightforward, unless you have issues. Some kind of issues. Okay, and so here is the psalmist is writing, kind of like praising God for his creation. He says this. He says, "O Lord, how manifold," or means how great are your works. In wisdom thou hast made them all, and the earth is full of thy riches. So is this great and wide sea, wherein are things creeping innumerable, both small and great beasts. So he's just writing, man, God, how great is everything that you made. How beautiful, right, is the sky. How beautiful is the ocean. I know here in Texas, man, we get some of the most beautiful sunsets out here. We really do. Like, I know some of you guys, y'all post them on your Instagram every time. There's like, and it's just like, it's mesmerizing how beautiful the sky can be as it's setting, right? That would be...
Is that God sending a message?
I think that's God's work. This is God's art. I mean, this is His creation, right? And so that would be called attraction, right? You have an attraction to what you are seeing. You appreciate the beauty of God's creation. A second example in the Bible is admiring beauty. This would be on a person. And actually, there's kind of a funny description here. So Genesis 29:17. And if y'all know the story of Jacob and Rachel, right? We'll kind of reference this 2 times tonight. So Jacob in the Bible, he's trying to find a wife for himself, and he comes across a woman named Rachel, and this is how she is described. And Rachel has a sister named Leah, and it's actually kind of funny how it compares it. So it says Leah was tender-eyed. That means she was weak in the eyes, which means she's not attractive at all. So it's saying Leah is not very attractive. Leah is not very attractive, but it says, but Rachel, y'all listen, it says Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. In case you want to know what that means well-endowed in her body. She had a very womanly, beautiful form. It's not just talking about her face. It's talking about her whole body. It's being described. She is beautiful. She is attractive. Okay, so Jacob, noticing that this woman is beautiful, and yes, noticing that her body is nice, is not lust. That is simply attraction. Okay? If you are a biological male, and you see an attractive woman, and you recognize that fact, that's all that is. If you are a woman, and you see an attractive man, maybe you name your favorite male actor, and name the film where he took his shirt off. Okay? As long as that's all you're saying, like, man, he's attractive. He's fine. That's just attraction. Okay? There's nothing sinful about that in and of itself. You guys need to understand that. That is normal. That is how God wired you as a human being. Right? If you did not have any sense of attraction to other people, we would never get married. We would never have that first spark that's like, hey, and here's the truth. It's funny. Me and Shay still will talk about this. You know how, like, one of the running jokes is, like, sometimes girls will ask their boyfriends or husbands or whatever, would you marry me if I was ugly? What about if I was a worm? Just ridiculous questions. Like, would you still love me if I was a worm? Like, what even is that? No, I wouldn't love you if you were a worm. But the question is interesting. Like, would you like, here's the reality. Y'all listen. If I was not somewhat attractive, Shay would have never given me the time of day. If I was a 1 out of 10, it's not that my personality, listen, that's your opinion. I need you to keep your opinion to yourself. But if I was a legit 1 out of 10, y'all listen, hey, we got to get through all my notes. Y'all ask me why it takes so long. Okay, listen. If I was like at the bottom, like really, really ugly, I don't mean like average, I mean ugly. I could have a great personality, but most likely, unless Shay had like known me for years and had seen all that, she would have never given me the time of day. And I said, so that answers your question, all right? If I didn't find you attractive at all, I might not have had an interest, right? Now, that doesn't mean your looks are everything. Of course it's not. But attraction is important to us. When you choose a person to marry, I hope that you choose somebody that you're at least somewhat attracted to. Otherwise, you're going to have problems in your marriage. Because sex, whether you think so or not, is important for you to have a healthy marriage. So you've got to be able to be attracted, or else it's not going to get to the next part, okay? So anyways, but just admiring, just having attraction is not in and of itself lust. So I think I've made that point, okay? But let's talk about what lust is. And I gave this definition last week, but let me give it again, and then I'm going to give you examples of different kinds of lust. So this is a simple definition. Lust is strong and passionate desire for something you don't have. Strong and passionate desire for something you don't have.
Wait, so
If you're asking questions, why don't you let me get through it? I'm probably going to answer your question, all right? Strong and passionate desire for something you don't have. Now, attraction is merely appreciating what you see. It's liking what you see. But lust goes beyond what you're seeing and your appreciation of it, and it gets to, I now desire to have that. It's one thing, for example, to admire your neighbor's car. If they get a nice car, right? I don't know, if any guys in here are like, you have a particular car that you really want one day. If your friend or your neighbor, somebody you knew got that car, and like you came over and visited them, like, dude, that's so cool. Like, you'd sit in the car, you're like, whatever. That doesn't mean you're coveting. It doesn't mean you desire to steal it. But if you were to go home that night and be like, dude, this is my opportunity. I have the opportunity to take this for myself. And you just can't get over that, and you start desiring and plotting out a way to actually take that. Now you're coveting, right? You've gone beyond just admiration of something with the eyes, and now you've moved into a desire to take. And so I've said this before, but the word lust and coveting are one and the same, right? And so actually there's a verse in the Bible, and I'll have this one. It won't be in the notes, so you guys can just read it. And this is Paul talking about the subject of sin, and he says, "What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Well, God forbid. No, I had not known sin except by the law," right? And then he says, "For I had not known lust except the law had said, thou shalt not covet." Meaning the only way to understand what lust is to understand when God says, thou shalt not covet. That applies to coveting another person sexually who you're not married to. So lusting and coveting, biblically speaking, are the same problem. It's desiring to take something that you don't have, right? So in other words, in the context of marriage, there cannot be an illegitimate lust between a man and his wife, right? Because the wife belongs to the husband belongs to the wife. They're allowed to have strong and passionate desire between each other. But for you to have a strong and passionate desire for something or somebody else that does not belong to you, now you're getting into the territory of sin. But let me give you an example, because did you know that the Bible actually gives a couple examples of a legitimate or not sinful form of lust? Like, huh? Wait, I thought you said we're talking about, the whole thing is about fighting lust, Tyler. Now you're telling me there's a form of lust that's not sinful. Yes, because that's the word that the Bible uses when it's describing these positive things. So let me give you two examples of good lust. One would be desiring the job of a pastor. And let me turn there real quick, and I'll read you the verse, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. So it's 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 31. All right, and here is what it says. It says, "But covet earnestly," which, what do we say that covet means? Lust. So lust after earnestly means with all your heart the best gifts, talking about spiritual gifts. You should have a strong and passionate desire to have spiritual gifts from God. It says, "And yet I show unto you a more excellent way." And one of those gifts that somebody can have is the job of a pastor, right? Of an overseer, of a preacher, right? So Paul is saying you should covet good things like spiritual gifts. You should have a strong and passionate desire to have spiritual gifts that you don't currently have. You should seek to develop those things in your life. You should ask God, what spiritual gift can I have and use in the church? That form of lust is legitimate because the object, the thing that you are wanting, is good. It's not wrong. It's not sinful, right? Another example of a good lust would be marriage, a desire for marriage. So let's go back to Genesis. Let's pick up on the story of our boy Jacob and see what happens with Rachel. Not this Jacob, not my brother. We don't know if he'll ever get married or not. He may be one of those rare breeds that's like, I don't need a woman. I'm gonna be successful on my own for a while. I feel like he's got that energy, the lone wolf, and not like in a bad way, but like Tyler in high school way. I don't need or want a woman. All right, I'm good on my own. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jacob went up with a girlfriend the next couple months. We'll see. We shall see. All right, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's get to the story of Jacob in the Bible. Genesis 29, and I want to read for you. And for those who don't know, he basically agrees to the woman's father. He finds Rachel. He's just so in love. He's just like, this is the woman for me. He goes to the father, And he's like, what do I have to do to earn her hand? Like, what do I have to do to get your permission to marry her? And the father says, if you want to earn my respect, you've got to work for me for 7 years. 7 years! That's longer than most of you guys can ever imagine. Most of you guys can't even hold a relationship for 7 months. I'm just kidding. I don't want to step on too many toes. I'm just kidding. No, he's saying you've got to work for me for 7 years, and then after the 7 years, you can marry my daughter. That's how you're going to earn my trust. That's how you're going to earn my respect. That's incredible. Okay, so here's kind of where it picks up in verse 18, and it says, here's his response. Y'all listen. Hey, Eric, y'all are talking a whole lot, and I need y'all to stop doing that. That's really distracting. Okay, please focus on what we're talking about. And it says, and Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve 7 years for Rachel, thy daughter. He's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Okay, and then it goes on to say, and it says, and Laban, the father, said, it is better that I give her to thee than I should give her to another man, so abide with me. So stay with me, work for me for 7 years. And this is so cute and sentimental. And it says, and Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had for her was great. Aww. 7 years flies by in a few days because of how much he loves her. So cute. But then in verse 21, it picks up 7 years later. It's like the very next verse, like it skips like 7 years. It says, and Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife. He says, she's my wife now. Give her to me. For my days are fulfilled that I may go in unto her. And that is a biblical expression for have sex. Now, you have to understand, before you're like, wait, hold on, Tyler. That sounds like he's lusting, right? If he's saying, give me that woman, it's time for... But you understand, in this day and culture, the way that your marriage became official was the first time you slept together. You were considered married. Oh, okay, so you see what I'm saying? So when he asks, he says, hey, listen, I've done everything necessary to earn your respect. I am now desiring to have my wife. I want us to be married. I want us to get this thing going because I'm so excited to finally be married to the woman that I've loved for 7 years. Okay? So in this case, Jacob is desiring marriage itself. His desire is legitimate. His lust is not about, I desire to have sex with Rachel outside of marriage. No. I desire to be married to her. I desire all of the things that come with marriage. So you see, again, the object of his lust was legitimate. So his lust, his coveting, his desire was not sinful because he was desiring something that was good and holy. Okay? So that's an example of a legitimate form of coveting in the Bible. But let's talk about 2 illegitimate examples, and these should be pretty obvious already. Sinful lust. What would an example of sinful lust be? Well, the first one would be lusting or coveting after your neighbor's stuff. Right? That is the classic thou shalt not covet your neighbor. Okay? Very simple stuff, but I want to read the one verse just in case you need the biblical example. This is from the 10 Commandments. Easy stuff. Exodus chapter 20, verse 17, and here it goes. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, means belongings. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, which is lust, adultery of the heart, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, meaning his donkey, nor anything that is thy neighbor. So anything that your neighbor owns, you should not desire to take it. You should not become jealous. You should not fantasize about taking what belongs to him. It's not yours. Right? Very, very simple. Don't covet your neighbor's stuff. Ever. And here's something that you guys may not have thought about before. On the subject, and we'll get to sexual lust here in a second. But if you think about it this way, if you've ever had lust in your heart towards another person that you weren't married to, even if that person, you never saw them again today, can I tell you, that is somebody's future spouse. That's somebody else's spouse. They just haven't gotten married yet. You are desiring to take your neighbor's stuff. That woman, that guy, is the spouse of somebody else in God's timeline. You are desiring to take your neighbor's stuff. Ooh, let me put that on you real quick, all right? But then another kind of sinful lust, an example of that would be premarital sex. And if y'all notice, it's the same heart and sword from the logo. I just kind of like put the devil horns on it because you're horny. You get it? You get it? Okay. All right. Funny joke. I know. Hilarious. I'm just a comedic genius, man. I should just retire and become a comedian. All right. Matthew chapter 5, verse 27, 28. Y'all listen, please. Thank you. We read this one before, but I'm going to read it again. Here's what it says. This is the words of Jesus. He says, "You have heard that it was said of old time," meaning the old law, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." He says, "But I tell you, whosoever looks on a woman to lust after her," y'all listen please, "has committed adultery with her already in his heart." In his heart. So looking at a person and lusting after them are two different things. You can look without lusting. That's the attraction, right? It's when you begin to have the lust and the desire to take in your heart. Now you've gone from appreciation of the eyes, and now you've moved to a desire of the heart. Now you're desiring to take something that is not legitimate for you. So any form of lust for somebody who is not your spouse is a desire for premarital sex. Whether it be with somebody of the opposite sex, the same sex, be it for your girlfriend or boyfriend, all of that is illegitimate. That form of lust is not legitimate because you're not married to them. You can have a desire to be married to them, but you cannot have a desire in your heart to have premarital sex. That is a sinful lust. Do y'all see the difference? Am I making sense? Is anybody confused? Raise your hand if you're confused. I thought you were about to raise your hand, and I was just going to bonk you on the head and say, stop being confused. Okay, I hope that this all makes sense. So if I could kind of, and the next thing you have in your notes should be a little quotation. So, lust is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose to do. Lust is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose to do. In that first example, I talked about that cycle, where if you confuse the ideas of attraction and lust, you think attraction itself is somehow lustful, you might get stuck in this cycle, right, of thinking that you're sinning when you're actually not. You're just attracted. You just think somebody's attractive, whatever. And so if you think that, you might think that lust can something that just happens to you. That you're going about your day and all of a sudden an attractive person, oh no, I'm lusting, I looked at him too long. I looked at him for 5 seconds, I was only supposed to look for 2 seconds, or something like that, right? Whatever ridiculous thing you might tell yourself in your head. That's not how lust works. Lust is not an all of a sudden moment of attraction that just drops in your lap and nothing you can do about it. That's not lust. Lust is something you choose, like, okay, oh, look, there's an attractive person. And you know what? I'm going to think about them later. You're choosing to do that. Now, listen, maybe it's more true for guys and girls, maybe it's not. I've heard different things. I've heard that guys are more visual than women are. But listen, here's my basic theory. If you go to a beach anywhere, guy or girl, and you see an attractive person of the opposite sex, you're probably going to look for a second, at bare minimum a second. You're going to oh. I'm not saying you're being perverted and weird about it. I'm not like you're going to be staring at somebody and just as they're going by, you're just like, that's creepy and weird, and you'd probably end up dead somewhere in an alleyway. But probably, like, ladies, if you see a guy at a beach with his shirt off and he's got like a six-pack, you're probably going to take notice of that. I'm not saying you're going to lust, but you're going to notice it and probably have some sort of attraction. That's an attractive dude. Or whatever. Maybe you don't like guys with sex. Maybe you like scrawny string bean guys. I don't know what your thing is, all right? And for guys, if you see an attractive woman, you're probably going to look for a second. It's in your nature to be attracted. That's not the sin. Attraction happens to you whether you want it to or not. You can't help what you're attracted to. It just happens to you. That person is attractive. I notice it. It happens. But lust is different. Lust is an active desire to take. It's coveting. Coveting does not happen to you in a moment. Coveting is a desire that you build within yourself. You know what? I'm not content with simply noticing something that's looks good. I want to have that. I'm going to fantasize about that. And if I had the opportunity, I would take it. That's lust. Strong, passionate desire to have something that isn't yours. Y'all see how different that is from just simple attraction. Okay? I hope that y'all get that. Lust cannot happen to you by accident. It is something you choose to do. Just like this. Think about it this way. A lot of you guys, maybe right now, you have a desire for a certain kind of job or a career of some kind. It's probably changed 13 times over the last 5 years. I know it did for me. Like I want to be everybody when they're like 4 years old, I don't know what, everybody wants to be a fireman, or if you're a boy, all these 4-year-old boys want to be firemen, space, they want to be astronauts, or they want to be police officers. Why is it always those things? And you get older. Well, that's unique. That's unique. Yeah. But anyway, you might have a shift in your desire, right? You go from, hey, I like this idea of a job. Like, no, actually, I did some more research. I actually like this other one. Every single time you're choosing to shift your focus from one job to another. You're choosing the object of your desire. And the same happens with us in a sexual sense. You can't stumble into lust by accident. You're choosing to covet that person. You're choosing to dwell on that person, to fantasize, to desire to take them illegitimately. Being attracted is not lust. Those are different things. Let me go ahead and expand on this a little more. This is also not in your notes, so you're just going to have to look at the slide. I don't want to have too much. I want to give you some examples to kind of explain this. Lust is not just simply seeing and being attracted. It's more than the visual. Here are a couple examples of how lust might be brought up without ever seeing anything. One is books and stories. Y'all know the book, you probably heard of it. I hope you haven't read it, 50 Shades of Grey. If you've never heard of it, you're like, what is that? It's a book literally about a wealthy man seducing a woman, and the whole book is about their sexual escapades. Okay? They made a movie out of that book. Now, here's the thing. You may not have known this. Did y'all know the target audience and the biggest audience that read that book, did y'all know almost all of it was women?
Yeah.
The vast majority of it was women, actually. Men get this bad rap, right, for being like, oh, y'all watch porn and y'all are nasty. Well, why is it then that when it comes to books and stories, that women are the biggest consumers? But there's no pictures. It's not a picture book. Yet somehow this book, this story, text, words on paper, was able to evoke lust in the imaginations of women without ever having to see anything. Another example of that would be talk. In the Bible, there's examples in the Old Testament of men being led astray. In fact, in Proverbs, I don't know if I have it. Wait, hold on. Let me see if I have it marked. If I have it marked, I'm going to read it. It's real quick. Psalms. Oh. Here we go. And it's talking about a man who's being led astray, led into cheating and lust by the way a woman was talking to him. I want you all to get this, okay? So it says, and with her much fair speech, she caused him to yield, caused him to let down his guard, and with the flattering of her lips, all the promises, the sweet little nothing she was promising this man, she forced him, right? Leading him astray, lying to him, leading him into a trap. And it says, and he goes after her straightway like an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks. So she's saying all these sweet things. She's promising him a night of pleasure. She's telling him, if you actually read in Proverbs chapter 7, it gives the full description. She was over here telling this dude, listen, I just went to the altar today to pay for my sins, so now it's okay. I just put a sacrifice on the altar, so this little act that I want, it's covered. Oh, and my husband's away. He will never find out. Like, saying all these things, trying to seduce him. And it says that any man who falls for that is like an ox going to the slaughter, right? Saying that woman, and listen, guys can do that too. Men can do that too. Okay, so here's the deal. That's all talk. There's no visual involved in that. It's just somebody's false promises can get you to lust. But what about romance? And the old version, the original version of the series, I said old couples. But then people got freaked out. But the idea is the same. An old married couple, I'm not saying you should, it's kind of gross. They still have sex. They do. Okay. But as we all know, old people are not very attractive anymore. So, okay, how then is a married couple going to still pursue sex in their old age? There's got to be something more than just simple visual attractiveness, because that's kind of fading away. But there's an emotional connection. There's that romance. That romance, that deep love becomes the driving force for their sexual activity, not the appearance. So y'all got to see, lust is more than just what you see. It goes deeper. It's a heart level. You desire to have something. It's not just that you saw something and now you're lusting. No. It's an active desire that you develop and hear, whether or not you have a visual to look at. So it's very important to notice or to document all these things. You got to understand. Okay. That was the verse we just read. I had it on the slide. I'm like, I don't know, where's it at? It's right here on the slide. I could have just read it. Okay, so now that we've gone over the truth, all right, you should have the cycle. Here is how the cycle should work for you as a Christian. Knowing the truth, here's how you should respond in a daily life cycle, all right? First step, same thing. God, help me not to lust today, right? Same prayer as the guy before, same idea. Then, once again, the little girl, all right? You have the thought, she looks good head to toe. But then you realize, okay, instead of thinking that you're lusting or something, now the response is, what a beautiful child of God, right? An image bearer of God. God, blessed her. That's great. So instead of having shame, thinking that you're lusting when you're not, which then leads to you blaming God, being mad at him, God, why'd you make me this way? Instead, it leads to thanking God for his art. God, thanks for your art, right? Thank you for making women attractive. Or if you're a girl, God, thanks for making men somewhat attractive. All right? Whatever it is, wherever your thought process is, all right? I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to say it. All right, anyway. No, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say that on average, I think men are more attractive than women. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That almost sounds sus. I'm just kidding. No, I would say probably there's a lot more ugly men than there are ugly women. I do think that. But it's like
Is this you telling us?
No. Because okay, if you ever looked at IQ charts, listen, IQ statistics, here's what's interesting. If you look at the percentage of overall, an average IQ is around 100, I think. There are more women with an average IQ and hardly any women at the extreme. So there's not a lot of crazy dumb women and there's not a lot of crazy intelligent women. But with men, it's a little different. There's extremes. There have higher extremes. So there's more intelligent men and there's more crazy men and a lot less men in the middle. I think the same is true with attractiveness in men. There's a lot less in the middle and there's a lot more extremes. I don't know what it is about that, but it's just kind of something that I've noticed. Maybe you all agree, maybe you don't. But I'm right, whether you agree or not. Okay, anyway, so hey, y'all listen, we're almost done. Step number 5 then. If you're appreciating God for his art, you're not thinking about this in a lustful way. Y'all listen. Now it's when lust does come. That temptation sets in. You know what? I have a moment. I could allow lust to develop here. The response is, no, that's God's child. I ain't going to do that. Because I have control over whether or not I lust. It's not something that can happen to me. It's not something that can just make its way in as if I didn't want it. No. I can choose not to lust. And then, freedom. That's the cycle that you ought to be living as a Christian. Understanding that your attraction is not the problem. Your attraction never was the problem. It's those moments where you allow your heart to lust. That's the problem. That's something that you choose. You're in control of that. Nobody can make you lust against your will. Nobody. No person, no guy, no girl can be so attractive that you just can't help it. No. Not possible. You choose lust. Attraction you may not choose. You do choose lust. All right? And so here is, you should have this verse down to fill it in. It says, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. So if you've ever experienced temptation to sin of any kind, not just lust, but any kind of sin, did you know that God never makes you tempted? He does not create in you a desire to sin that you can't fight. God does not put a person in your life to tempt you to sin as if he's some sort of malicious God trying to make you stumble. God does not do anything to tempt you. And a lot of people, not y'all, but a lot of Christians act as if God was being unfair to us by making us attracted to the opposite sex or something. God, it's your fault that I struggle with lust. I mean, come on. How am I not supposed to? God does not, listen, no. Lusting is not something that God designed within you naturally. He designed attraction within you naturally. Lusting is the perversion of that goes to an extreme. So you cannot blame God. You cannot say God did anything wrong when he made the earth or made people. There's nothing wrong with his design. It's us and our sin that is the problem. So here is the result. If you believe the truth, if you believe what I just said, and you're like, Tyler, I'm tracking with you. I'm understanding what you're saying. I understand that attraction and lust are separate things. Here should be your response. You believe that enjoying the side of the human body, attraction, that is natural. But having a lustful response is perverse. Y'all see how all I did was change these two words? I flipped them. If you believe the perspective of the lie, you think attraction is somehow perverted and that's somehow lustful. But then you also tell yourself, but lusting, that's natural. We can't help it. No. The truth is the exact opposite of that. It's attraction that's natural. It's the lusting that's perverse and sinful. That's the truth. Okay, and the last verse here that I have to share with you guys, and this is in Isaiah, and I think it's very important to finish on this one right here. It's Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. I'm turning to my Bible as if I need to. It's right here. Woe unto them means judgment unto them, right? You know, like sorrow unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Guys, going all the way back to Genesis, God makes Adam and Eve. And what does he say? It is good. There is nothing about your human body that is sinful, that is lustful, that is perverted. Your body is made in the image of God. And just like we talked about, guys, enjoying the sky, the evening setting of the sun, in the same way, that should be the relationship you have to other people. You can appreciate the beauty, the handsomeness that other people can have, admiring them as being a creation of God. And it should stop right there, unless you're married. Then it can continue. But you guys see how this isn't a hard battle to fight when you understand what you're fighting. It's okay to appreciate beauty. It's not okay to covet it illegitimately. And now that you guys have a better idea of the differences between attraction and lust, does this help you in figuring out what specifically you need to stop doing? And what you need to let yourself do naturally? I hope that it's helpful because listen, again, for me guys, when I was y'all's age, I didn't have a good idea of the differences here. It was kind of this gray, confusing thing, and it led me to feel guilty a lot of times for finding other women attractive. Be like, oh no, am I lusting after them? Was that wrong? Did I look too long? How many seconds was that? I don't know. I don't know if I was sinning or not. And I always felt this low-level sense of shame because I wasn't ever sure if I was lusting or not. But guys, the Bible makes it easy for us. These two things are so different. You can't confuse them when you know what they are. So I hope that this was helpful to you. I know that as we've gone through this series with 3 different lies that we've had in order to fight the battle against lust and pornography in your life, you have to believe the truths. Lie number 1, what was it? Do y'all remember?
No.
What was lie number? And it's about the human body. Lie number 1 is that the human body is a sexual object. What's the truth?
The body's a temple.
The body's a temple. It's a creation of God that bears His image, right? Yeah. Okay. Lie number 2. Lie number 2. Last week, what was lie number 2?
Side eye.
No.
It has to do with lust. It has to do with lust.
Lust is natural.
Lust is the natural response. What's the truth? What's the truth?
Attraction is a natural response.
No, lust is not the natural response. Okay, and then of course tonight the lie is that attraction and lust are the same things. The truth is that they are separate things. So I hope, as we've gone through this series, that all of this, listen, and you may say, Tyler, but where's the part where you give me day-to-day advice on how to battle porn, how to battle lust, how to battle all those things? Because, guys, this is the foundation. I hope you all understand. This is the starting point. We're dealing with matters of the heart first, because that's where you have to start this battle. Like I said before, a lot of Christians start at, let me get rid of my phone, let me put this filter on, let me do all this, and they don't even get to this part. The most important, which is, what is it that you believe in here and in here that's causing you to trip up before you even get to the point of lust? You've got to correct those things first, understand the battle that you're fighting, and now, hopefully, most people can hear these truths and be like, you know what, all I need to do, if I'm tempted to lust, I need to, one, remind myself that, listen, I ought to be seeing this person as being made in the image of God before anything else. Right? Remind yourself of that. This person is made in the image of God. Number two, remind yourself, don't give yourself an excuse of, I'm lusting, but it's natural. It ain't natural. Your lust is perverted and sinful. God didn't build that into you. Right? And then thirdly, remind yourself of this. It's okay to be attracted to them. It's just not okay to lust. If you can remind yourself of those three truths every single time you're tempted to lust, it's going to be a lot more difficult to ever get caught up in porn, to get caught up in lustful thoughts. When you remind yourself of those truths every single time you're tempted. Y'all feel what I'm saying? It's all about knowing the truth, because what did Jesus say about the truth? You shall know the truth, and it'll what? It'll set you free. The truth will set you free. It starts with understanding the truth and overturning these lies. Now, the thing that I have here, and this is the part that I know some of you guys probably have a lot of additional questions. You heard some of the stuff I said. You're like, but Tyler, what about this? But what about that? But how about this thing? And I have the perfect thing we're going to do right now. So now, please pull out your phones. I have a QR code I want you to scan. It's going to take you to a Google form, and it gives you 3 different fields to write as long of a question as you want. So you can ask up to 3 questions per person. If you guys have more than that, I would be surprised. But I want you guys to go ahead and start writing out your questions as many as you have. If you have more than 3, I guess you can make 2 lines and make 2 out of 1 or whatever. Do you want to do that? You can use my phone if you want. And it's not asking you for your name or anything. The questions are going to be anonymous by the end of it. So, Kaylee, here's this. Write your question down and then give it to her, and then she's going to write her question. Well, you're sisters. Y'all can get over it. Even if you don't have one, try to think of one. Okay. Try to think of, even if it's a question of, maybe not about this, maybe, Tyler, but here's something that I struggle with. What am I supposed to do with that? Think about something specific to yourself if you need to. I want you guys to think of at least one question to write down.
Do we have to submit it right now, or can we think about it?
You can think about it.
You can do it later. If y'all want, I can send this QR code to the group.
Yeah.
How are you going to scan a QR on your own phone?
You can.
Is there a link?
You can screenshot. Baby, Apple got anything.
Okay, well, I'll send it to the Instagram group chat if you want to think about some later. But I have it now so y'all can do it now. Because I know the last time I did this series.
It should have taken you to Safari or whatever, so it should save in your Safari.
No. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is the last time I did this series, all I did was send the QR code to the group chat, and 2 people did a question. I'm giving y'all time right now to do questions so you don't forget. Okay, so if you're gonna remember, listen, do it later. But for most of you guys, go ahead and just do it now. Just get it done with. Be done with it. Don't try to push it off. I'll give y'all 3 minutes. All right. If you need more than that, you're good. Once you have your questions submitted, y'all can go downstairs. Actually, you know what? Let me say a word of prayer.
Yeah,
All right. Let me say a word of prayer. If you're doing questions, continue that after the prayer, and then as you get finished, go and do your thing. All right, everybody, guys, close your eyes. Let me pause coming in hot here. All right, dear God, thanks so much for this day. Thank you for everything that you've done. Father, I just want to thank you for the truth in your word that has the ability to set us free. And God, I pray that every person in here takes to heart the things that we've talked about, God, that it's clear, God, that the battle against lust, porn, and all of those things is a battle within us. It's within our hearts. We need to see things the way you see it. We need to not just behave like Christians, God. We need to think like a Christian. And God, that's asking ourselves, how would God think about this issue? How would God think about other people? And so, God, I pray that as you help us to battle this issue, if there's anybody here who's struggling, God, that they need that extra help, they need that extra push, they need that extra encouragement or accountability, God, I pray that you help all these youth in here to understand there is no shame in coming to me or Shay and saying, hey, I need help with this. God, that's what we're here for, and I pray that you could help them to trust us enough that we would be there for them, that we would not mock them or think less of them for wanting us to help with any particular sin that they might have in their lives, God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.